guys, I'm Cameron and welcome back to my channel where we sip tea and also spill the tea as I talk about some of my favorite reads. In today's video, I'm going to be bringing you my November wrap-up, which guys, let me just say, it was such a great reading month for me, and I'm so happy to say this. I read 15 books in the month of November, which is absolutely amazing because guys, literally a month before that in October, I read no books. I was literally going through the worst reading slump ever. Just no book would interest me, and there is one book in particular that I decided to pick up that totally changed my reading slump and got me through to the other side and made me start reading again. So without further ado, let's get into this video. So the first book on my list, which brought me out of my reading slump, is Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood by Sarah J. Maas. So this book is set in a world filled with different paranormal creatures, and each class of paranormal creatures are put in a type of faction, from lowest ranking creature to most powerful and highest ranking paranormal creature or person. And on the lowest rung of society are the humans, and our girl Feyre, wrong book, wrong Sarah J. Maas book, but our girl Bryce, who is the main character of this book, she is half fae and half human. And then the highest on this faction in this world are the angels. They are the most powerful. So our girl Bryce, she is living her best life. She just graduated college. She has her own job, and she has her best friend who she has been living with for a little while, and her best friend is like a sister to her. She cannot be any closer to her. And sadly, her best friend ends up getting murdered, and nobody knows who murdered her, because the creature that murdered her is something that nobody has ever really seen before, nobody has ever really heard of. So now, fast forward almost 2 years later, our girl Bryce is just trying to move on with her life. She's trying to be happy. To this day, nobody ever found out who murdered her best friend, and crazy enough, the murderer starts killing again. And so one of the highest ranking angels decides to give Bryce a task of trying to find out who murdered her best friend. So this highest ranking angel ends up pairing her up with a man named Hunt, so that Hunt can assist her and help her as she's trying to find out who killed her best friend. And then obviously there's a bit of a romance that's gonna start springing up and arising between Hunt and our girl Bryce. I really enjoyed this book, and it was something that it's so close to my heart because it got me out of my reading slump. But if we are comparing this to all of Sarah J. Maas' other series, like A Court of Thorns and Roses and the Throne of Glass series, this book, this first installment, does not compare, in my opinion, to the other first installments of those series. But if you take those other series out of the equation, then this book was actually really well written. It was fun, and it really did keep my attention. And I don't know what it was. I just had a little bit of a harder time connecting to Bryce's character like I did to the other main characters in the other series. There's just something about Bryce. I don't know if it was her personality or it just didn't connect. I didn't connect to her character that well, and I wasn't really rooting for her as much. And I think one of the main things that I didn't really like about Bryce was that she was very predictable. She had certain qualities about herself that was very repetitive, and it caused her to make the same type of mistakes or the same type of choices all throughout this book, and it got very, very predictable to where I had a pretty good idea of how she would respond to a certain situation. So yeah, no matter all the little tiny shortcomings that I saw throughout the book, I really did like the ending. I thought that the ending was absolutely incredible. There was a huge, huge, huge action scene, and guys, I just have to say, Sarah J. Maas excels so much at writing battle scenes. Like, it was absolutely amazing. Whenever I was reading this book, I felt like I was in the middle of watching Lord of the Rings or something. But it was absolutely amazing. It was so gripping, and it had me at the edge of my seat. So, yeah, was Bryce a little bit predictable? Yes. Did I really, really like her character all that much? No, not that much. But you know what, guys? Bryce's character is set up to where I feel like she can have a lot of growth, and there's so much potential for her to grow and to become a person and a character who I would be excited to read more about. I'm looking forward to that, and I'm also looking forward to see what happens with the relationship that's being developed between Hunt and our girl Bryce. And I also want to see if there ends up being another man in the equation in the future, because, you know, our girl Sarah J. Maas, like, she likes to switch things up a bit on us. So let's see what happens. Maybe there's a future Resand out there for our girl Bryce, you know? Oh, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so yeah, overall, this book was good for a first in a series, and it got me out of my reading slump, so I'm so thankful for it. Okay, so the next book that I'm going to talk about is The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. So this is actually a reread for me, and I read this book about a year ago. And the reason why I had such a hard time enjoying this series and, well, enjoying this first installment was because I did not like the bullying aspect between the two main characters. That's just not my thing. I don't think it's fun to read about two characters that have that type of bullying romance going on. Like, I don't know. I don't think that's hot. I don't think that is a great way to build a relationship between two characters. So I wanted to read this again to see if maybe after reading this a second time, if I would have a change of heart with it. So yeah, to give you a quick synopsis, this book is about a girl named Jude who, as a child, she was kidnapped and taken to the world of the Fae, and it is here that she grows up next to the Fae royals. And one of the royals who she grows up with, his name is Carden, and he is the Prince of the Fae, and he is somebody who he is one of the biggest bullies to Jude. He's very cruel towards her, hence the title, The Cruel Prince. And in this book, our girl Jude, she's seen as less than because she is a human. And so throughout the whole book, she's trying to prove that she is so much more than what the Fae see her as. And she just makes it a point to prove that just because she is human, it doesn't mean that she can't be just as strong or as intelligent as the Fae in the story. So guys, after reading this a second time, I have to say the bullying aspect didn't bother me as much, and I think that's because before I read this book a couple months ago, I read a bully romance series, and it was very hard to read the bullying that was going on in that series. But after you got past that and you got to really pull back the layers of the man who was bullying the female character, I really started to love that series, and that actually ended up being one of my favorite series of this year that I read. It was so addicting and so amazing, and I think after reading that series that it was easier for me to read the bullying in this story because I was already more used to it and I'd grown accustomed to it. So this book, honestly, the bullying that happened in this book compared to that other series, this is like child's play. This was nothing. Carden was like a little cute fluffy bunny compared to the bully in that other series that I read. So yeah, so the bullying aspect didn't really bother me, and I have to say that I actually really love the way that Miss Holly Black writes and weaves a story. She is just so great at setting a tone in a story and at writing such incredible settings. It was just really awesome to be able to see that, and that was actually one of my favorite parts of this book. I loved the mood and the atmosphere, and it is just the type of book that would be awesome to read like during the winter or during a rainstorm or something. Like, I don't know, it was really, really cool. I do have to say, I don't really like the relationship between Carden and Jude. Like, even just take away the fact that Carden was a jerk and he was a bully, I just don't think that the relationship that's being built between them is I don't know, like, it's not something that excites me, you know? I just felt very little passion between them. So yeah. Did I like this book? I actually did. I enjoyed reading this book, and I really liked it so much more the second time around, and I liked it enough so that after I got done finishing this book, I immediately picked up The Wicked King by Holly Black, which is the second book in this series. Now, I enjoyed this book so much more than I did the other book. I felt like all the transitions and the changes that were taking place in this book went very smoothly, but I do have to say, the relationship that is being built between our two main characters, it just does not feel natural to me. I feel like just like all of a sudden they started to have feelings for each other and they started to like each other, and I don't feel like it was paced good enough in this story. It was just like thrown at me all of a sudden. Like, I don't know. It just wasn't believable in my opinion. And I'm somebody who I absolutely adore the romance of a story. That is what truly gets me excited for a book series. And because the romance in the story just, I think it was just kind of subpar compared to other books that I've read, it had a hard time keeping my attention. So I do have the third book in the series. I've kind of been putting it on the back burner because this book just didn't excite me as much as I wanted it to. But like I said before, I really did like this book more than I liked the first book, because we finally got to see Jude in this place of power, and we got to see just how strong she is and how resilient she is. I really do like Jude. Even though I don't like the relationship between Carden and Jude, I love Jude all on her own. She is such a cool, freaking awesome character. She is bad as heck. She is awesome. So yeah, that was The Wicked King by Holly Black. So the fourth book on my list is Ashes of Chaos by Amelia Hutchins. So this is the second book in the Nine Realms series, and guys, I just have to say, this book is porn. This book is porn with very little plot. It is all hot and no plot, you guys. So this is about a girl named Arya, and she is a witch, and she's on the run from this man named Nox, who is the anti-hero of the story, but he is the romantic love interest, and she's on the run. She's trying to get away from Nox, and I'm not going to tell you why, because that's a big spoiler, but she's on the run from Nox, and while she's on the run, she is doing all these incredible feats of magic, and she's trying to take down this other class of witches. So yeah, basically that is the whole plot of the story. That is what's going on. But while this is all going down, she is just talking nonstop about how much she misses Nox and about how much she wants to have sex with him, and yeah, guys, so I have to say, I have read other series by Amelia Hutchins, and I have absolutely adored all those series. Like, there is something about Amelia Hutchins' writing that is just so addictive, and it really gets you wanting to read what happens next. But I feel like that addictive quality that she has in all of her other books is just not really here in this book. I feel like this is just very rushed, this whole series. Like, I know that the author actually, I think she wrote the first book in like 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and honestly, guys, you could kind of tell. I just don't feel like the plot and everything that's going on is as well drawn out as the plot was in the other books. Because let me tell you, in all the other series that I've read by Amelia Hutchins, it is all basically porn. Like, it's porn. It's like, it's porn, okay? It's like porn, but there's always a great plot to go with it. It's like Game of Thrones, how whenever you're watching Game of Thrones, especially the first few seasons, it is like you're watching porn, but the plot is there, the plot is amazing, and it's just so amazing, it's so addictive, and that is how all of her other books were. But with this book, I just feel like the plot is kind of lost, and our author has just turned into writing smutty porn. So, yeah, but because I love Amelia Hutchins so much, I am reading these books, and guys, even though this is basically, like, there's not much of a plot going on, there is still something about this book that makes me want to read and to continue on and to see what happens next. So I feel like even though this book series isn't as addictive as the other books, as all the other series that I've read by her, there's still something about this book that it's a bit addictive. So I am going to be reading the next book in the series, the third book, which actually comes out, I think, sometime in December. So I'm looking forward to that. So that is Ashes of Chaos by Amelia Hutchins. The fifth book on my list is Daughter of the Pirate King by Tricia Levenseller. So this book is about a girl named Losa, who is the daughter of the Pirate King, and she is sent on a mission to retrieve a key that is supposed to help you find this very hidden treasure that all of the pirates and all of the seven seas are trying to find, because it is one of the wealthiest treasures in the world. So in order to find this hidden key, her father knows that the key is actually on an enemy pirate ship. So she allows herself to get captured by the pirates on this enemy ship so that during the night she can sneak out of her prison and try to find the pirate key. So during this time, she ends up meeting the first mate, Raiden, who is kind of sent to be her interrogator to try to find out more about her and how she ended up on their ship. And so while she's trying to find this key, she starts to kind of have a little bit of a relationship with Raiden. There's a bit of tension between them. And so yeah, guys, I have to say, I really like this book. It was so much fun, and it really did feel like I was watching Pirates of the Caribbean or something. It was amazing, and I thought Alosa was such a fun character to read about. I just love a strong female character, and Alosa was that. She was also strong, but she had a funny sense of humor as well. It was just fun to be in her head. And then I really liked Raiden. I liked the relationship that is being developed between them. I don't feel like it was too rushed. And there was just such a fun quality between Alosa and Raiden. Like, it was just so much fun to be able to read their dialogue between the two and how they interacted with one another. Like, it was just, there was such a playful vibe between them, and I was here for it. I'm rooting for them in the second book. I want them to get together so bad. And also, I have to say that I really did like the secondary characters as well. Like, the other pirates in the story were so fun to read about, and I really liked this book. It was such a cool adventure, and I really wasn't expecting to like this as much as I did. But guys, I loved it. So yeah, it was awesome. Okay, so that's The Daughter of the Pirate King by Trisha Levenseller. The sixth book on my list is The Princess Trials by Cordelia K. Castell. So in the synopsis, it says that this book is supposed to be like the Hunger Games and the Selection series, and that is absolutely true. So this book is about a girl named Zia who lives in a post-apocalyptic world, and in this world they have different factions. In each faction, they all have their own certain job that they have to do to contribute to society. And our girl, Zia, is on one of the lowest factions, so she is not having the time of her life. And in this world, one of the world's most eligible bachelors is the prince, and his name is Kavan, and it is his time to find a bride and get married. And so he ends up having the Princess Trials, which sounds so much like the Selection, you guys. And every girl in each faction gets the chance to join the Princess Trials and to compete for the hand of Kavan. And so you may be wondering, yeah, I see how this is like the Selection series, but how is this like the Hunger Games? Guys, I have to tell you. So the girls in this story who are competing for the prince's hand, they are nuts. Like, I'm not even kidding. They are crazy, and they are willing to do anything, even murder, to get to be able to be the bride of Prince Kavan. And so it is literally like the fight to the death between all these girls as they're trying to win the hand of the prince. And so our girl Zia, she doesn't even want to be here in the first place. She doesn't want to be in the castle, which, guys, that sounds so much like America from the Selection. But our girl Zia, the only reason why she is even competing in these trials is because she works for the rebellion, and the rebellion sends her to infiltrate the Princess Trials so that she can be able to see the castle and to be able to find hidden passageways that the rebellion soldiers can try to sneak up and infiltrate the castle with. So, guys, this book was one heck of a ride. I have to say, I didn't really like Zia's character that much. She was just kind of immature and a little petty, but there are still qualities about her that I thought were epic as well. She was very tough as nails, and she did not let the other girls in this book bring her down. She kept on giving her all and working hard as heck to just do her thing. And guys, I really liked that about Zia. The relationship between our two main characters, I felt like it was a little rushed, at least on Kavan's side. He was like, basically like, he had puppy eyes for our girl Zia throughout this whole book, and I honestly don't even know what he really saw in Zia, because guys, they honestly didn't have that many moments alone to where they could actually talk and get to know each other. So I was like, what's going on? Like, why does our man Kavan like our girl Zia so much when he barely knows her? Like, I don't know. That was a little off-putting to me. Maybe Zia's just hot and Kavan is here for a little bit of panty action, but who knows? Who knows? So, guys, I do have to say, though, the action in this book, especially towards the end, was incredible. I was actually getting a little scared whenever I was reading what was happening with Zia. Like, guys, things got crazy and the crap hit the fan. You have to read this. It really is like the Hunger Games, and it's so good. I did like this book. I liked it, okay? So yeah, that is The Princess Trials by Cordelia K. Castell. The next book on my list is Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. And guys, I liked this book so much. Like, it was so good. Okay, so I literally read this book in a day. Like, I read it in one single day. And this book has, how many pages does it have? Let's see. This book has 372 pages. I read 372 pages in a day. And you may be asking, why? Why? Well, first of all, I'm literally stuck in my house because my mom doesn't want me going out a whole lot because of the coronavirus and everything. So, basically all your girl does is eat and read and maybe work out a little bit because, I don't want to have to be rolled to the bookshop whenever I want to go in there and get some new books. But anyways, guys, so I read this in one day, and even though I have a lot of reasons for why I was able to read this book in a day, my main reason is solely based on the fact that this book was amazing. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. Okay. Calm down. I'm getting too excited, you guys. But anyways, okay. I'm actually starting to lose my voice, guys. Okay. I'm ready. This book is about a girl named Amelia who has a twin named Vittoria, and they are both witches living in Italy. And sadly, Amelia's sister ends up getting murdered, and our girl, Amelia, wants to find out who killed her sister because nobody knows who murdered Vittoria. So our girl, Amelia, she ends up summoning and making a deal with a demon who is the Prince of Hell, and he ends up helping her try to hunt down the person responsible for ending her sister's life. So guys, I loved the whole dark element of this story. I thought that the author did such a good job at creating these type of atmospheric rituals, and it was just, overall, it was really, really cool to be able to see the whole magic side of things. The author did such a great job at creating the witchcraft and the whole darker themes that she was throwing in there as well. It was so phenomenal. It's so entertaining. And then I also have to say, I really like Wrath, who is the male lead of the story. I liked the relationship that was being built between them, between the two of them, because it was definitely an enemies to lovers type of story. And guys, I am a sucker for that. I absolutely love an enemies to lovers romance. And at the same time, the relationship that's being built between them is such a slow burn, and I am here for it. I am not somebody who likes an insta-love type of thing. That's not my thing. I don't like it. It doesn't excite me. But this slow burn that we got going on between our two main characters, it is awesome. It is amazing. And guys, I really suggest that you pick this up. Like, read it. Please, 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 please read it. It's so good, and you will not be disappointed. I really enjoyed this book. It's so good, guys. So the next book that I read that was on my list is Savagelands by Stacey Marie Brown. This is about a girl named Brexley who she is living in a world where humans and the Fae live amongst each other and they do not get along. There was previously like a war that was fought between the Fae and the humans, and I don't think really either side won, and now they're just kind of cohabiting the world together and nobody likes each other. And there's actually like a wall between like this one city, in the city that this is set in Budapest. Our girl lives in Budapest, and there's like a wall set between in the center of Budapest, which separates the humans from the Fae, because that's how much they don't get along with each other. They have to be separated from one another. Basically, our girl Brexley, she gets in trouble, and whenever she gets in trouble, she ends up being on the Fae side of the wall, and that is not good for her. That means that she ends up having to get thrown into this Fae prison, which is basically like the craziest prison, the scariest prison that you could think of. It is so scary. It's so scary that on the human side, all the humans have heard tales about the freaking craziness that goes on in this prison. And our girl Brexley, she ends up in the middle of it. So whenever she's sent to this prison, she's just trying to survive. She does not want to die there, and it is here that she ends up meeting a man named, what's his name? She ends up meeting a man named Warwick Farkas, who he is like a myth, a legend amongst the Fae and the humans. He is somebody he's a Fae who fought in the Fae and human wars, and he was somebody who he could take down like 30 enemy soldiers with just in a matter of like seconds. He is incredible, and he is scary, and he is a force to be reckoned with. And in this prison, everybody avoids Warwick Farkas because he is seen as the best of the best, the strongest of the strong, and so everybody is kind of afraid of him. And Warwick Farkas ends up taking an interest in our girl Brexley, and a type of romance ends up starting there. And then also there's another thing going on in this prison. They have these type of fight to the death types of gladiator fight things, and our girl Brexley ends up having to fight in these gladiator brawls. So yeah, guys, this book was fun. I thought it was really good. It kept my attention, and I do have to say, like a lot of my other books, I have previously read other series by Stacey Marie Brown, and I have to say that I liked those series more than I liked this first book in the series. But I do have to say, there's so much potential here, and there's so much more room to grow for our main girl Brexley and for Warwick Farkas and for the relationship that's being built between them. I just feel like towards the end, the relationship between Warwick and our girl Brexley was getting a bit rushed. Like, they barely knew each other, and they were starting to have all these feelings for one another, and I don't know, that was just kind of weird to me. It was a little bizarre. But you know what, guys? I'm very excited to keep on reading this book. Our girl Brexley, she is bad as heck. She's awesome. She's so tough. And I can't wait to see what happens with Brexley and what happens with Warwick Farkas. So yeah, that is Savagelands by Stacey Marie Brown. So after reading Savagelands by Stacey Marie Brown, it really got me thinking about how much I miss all of the other series that I read by our girl Stacey Marie Brown. So I decided to pick up and to reread City in Embers, which is the first book in the Collector series. And then after that, I also read the second book in the series, which is called The Barrier Between. And so basically, to give you a quick synopsis about what these books are about, it centers around a girl named Zoe Daniels who works in this type of secret government society where they work to capture Fae who live in secret in the human world, and they capture them so that they can research on them and perform experiments so that they can try to use the Fae DNA to help cure diseases and to help cure ailments like cancer and all of that shebang, you know. And so, well, and something happens to where the people in the secret society, they turn against Zoe and they start hunting her down. And now the reason why they turned against her was because during this freak electrical storm, while she was hunting down this certain Fae, she ends up getting struck by a lightning bolt. But while the lightning bolt is coming towards her, this Fae named Riker jumps in front of her and covers her chest. And in doing so, the lightning bolt punctures both of them. And from there, that somehow caused Riker's Fae powers to get transferred into Zoe. So she now possesses Riker's powers. And because she has his powers, the secret society is now hunting her down, and Riker has to team up with Zoe because he wants his powers back. And what's really funny about this is that the Fae and the humans, they do not get along. I mean, obviously they don't get along because the humans are hunting down the Fae, and the Fae don't really like that. I mean, I wouldn't like that either if I was getting hunted down. And so Riker and Zoe, they do not want to have to be together, but Riker wants his freaking powers back, and Zoe needs some help escaping all these crazy people. So they team up together, and they are definitely enemies throughout almost the whole book. They do not like each other. This is a partnership that neither of them approve of, and they happen to have to work together to try to survive everything that's being thrown at them. And guys, this book is so good. I really like this book, and I like this book more than I liked The Kingdom of the Wicked. I just feel like this series, it progresses so well. Going from the first book to the second book, the transition was so smooth, and the events that are taking place, everything that happens, it keeps you on the edge of your seat. Like, there's so much action that is taking place as they are both on the run. And then the romance, guys. The romance. Oh, the romance is so well done. I love the relationship that starts to be built between Riker and Zoe. It's so good, and you could really see the relationship evolve as they go from enemies to friends to something that's more than friends. It is just so satisfying to read and watch their relationship develop from the beginning to the end. It is wonderful, and I will suggest this series to absolutely anyone and everyone. You should read it. Your mom should read it. Your mom's mom should read it, and everyone should read it. Okay? So yeah. Okay, so now let's go to the next book, you guys. The next book was A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. This is about a girl named Persephone, who she is basically a goddess by name only. She's supposed to be the goddess of spring, but she does not know how to work her powers. And so her mom, who is also a goddess, she's very protective of her because she doesn't have any powers. She doesn't want Persephone to get hurt in any way, and so she reluctantly agrees to let Persephone go away from home as she goes to college. And it is here, while she is in college, that she goes to this club that no other than Hades owns. It is a gambling club, and she ends up making a deal with Hades where she has to live and make a life in the underworld, and if she makes a life in the underworld, then she gets to be set free. But if she doesn't, then she has to live in the underworld for the rest of her life. I've got to tell you, this wasn't my favorite book. It was probably one of my least favorite books that I read this month. I feel like the relationship between Hades and Persephone was so rushed. So beyond rushed. Like, this was the type of book where they thought that the other was hot, and then from there they decided to jump into bed together, and their relationship was built on a very faulty foundation to begin with, and I just did not really like it. And the sad thing was that whenever I first started to read this book, the first 2 chapters was really good. I really liked it. I thought that I was going to love this entire book, but from there on out, after Hades and Persephone met each other, after they made that deal and they basically started hopping on each other like bunnies, yeah, it just lost its momentum for me. And I actually just didn't really like our main character that well, Persephone. She was just annoying. She was so annoying. And throughout the whole book, she just has all these pre-misconceptions about Hades. About, she thinks that he's some really bad guy because her mom does not like Hades at all. And throughout the whole book, she's just talking about how awful Hades is, and she literally tells that to his face, yeah, dude, you're awful. And it just, I didn't like that. I don't think I didn't like that, and I don't understand why Hades liked that. He still liked her, even though she was saying, even though, with every conversation they had, she mentioned how awful he was, he still thought she was hot, and he still liked her, and I don't know. Guys, I'm definitely not reading the second book in the series. I'm sad that I even took the time to buy this book and to have a copy of this because it was just going to go to waste on my shelf. So yeah, that is A Touch of Darkness by Scarlett St. Clair. So the next book that I read is I O U by Chrissy Marie. So this is a contemporary romance, and this is about a girl named Ainsley who is going to college, and she ends up finding out that her boyfriend has been cheating on her with her roommate, and so she ends up not wanting to live there anymore because who would want to live with your cheating skank of a roommate? So she moves out of there, but she doesn't have a place to stay. So she ends up making a deal with this man, Maverick, who he is known across campus as being somebody like, he will give a favor to somebody, but you have to return it later on in the future. And so she ends up asking for this favor from Maverick to be able to stay in his place while she's just trying to get back on her feet and trying to find a place of her own to live in. And so from there, they end up having a relationship. And guys, this book was funny. I really did. There was points in this book where I laughed so much, but I just did not think that their relationship was very believable at all. I felt like the relationship between these two people was very forced. There's only about 230 something pages, and you can tell there was only 230 pages because there wasn't much building up of this relationship. It just happened all of a sudden, and it just did not really interest me at all. I wasn't really here for it. So yeah, I wouldn't really recommend this to anybody, but if you just want a quick laugh or something and a very, very quick read, then yeah, pick it up. But I'm gonna tell you right now, the relationship built between them, it's not that great whatsoever. It's very just average. So yeah, that is I O U by Chrissy Marie. So after reading I O U, I picked up the book Kingdom of Exiles by Maxim M. Martineau. Okay guys, so this book reminds me so much of Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find It. So this book is about a girl named Lena Edenfrell, who she is a charmer, and she is able to find, capture, and tame beasts. And she is currently on the run from this certain magical group of people. They think that she did something really bad, which she actually didn't, and so she's basically on the run. She is actually trying to find this animal, this beast that she believes will help prove her innocence, and it is while she's on this mission trying to find this animal that the people who are trying to capture her, they end up sending these assassins to try to kill her. And from here, she ends up making a deal with these assassins, saying that she will give them 3 animals, 3 beasts, in exchange for her life. And so the assassins end up coming with her as they go on this adventure and travel through all these woods and forests and all these other areas to find, capture, and tame beasts so that they can have beasts of their own. And it is while they're on this adventure that our girl Lena ends up befriending and having a relationship with one of the assassins. And guys, I had a really hard time reading this book. I do have to say, this was not a bad book whatsoever. I feel like this is a book that somebody would pick up and truly love and enjoy, but for me, I just feel like there was something missing, and I can't even put my finger on it. Like, this book had everything you would like. It had fun characters, witty dialogue, and a really cool world that was being built here. But I think really what one of the main things was for me was that I didn't like the foundation that was being built for the romance and the relationship between our girl Lena and the assassin. And y'all guys, y'all know I'm all here for the romance. And the romance here, it just wasn't here for me. Like, I didn't like the romance that was being built here. I felt like it was very unnatural and it wasn't paced well at all. It just seemed like out of nowhere they were confessing their love for each other, and that was just weird and unnecessary. So, but you guys, if you really want like a cool world, to fall into. If you're here for the world building, then definitely check this out, because the world building here was really, really well done. And you can tell that the author put in so much time to create this really great world and to create all these beasts that are living in it. It was really interesting. So yeah, this book was good, but the relationship wasn't the best. So that's how I feel about this. So the next book that I read was The Deal by Ella Kennedy, and I'm actually made a video for this. I made a vlog, so I'm not going to talk too much about this, but I do have to say, guys, that book is wonderful. It is amazing. It is about a girl named Hannah who is going to college, and she's doing really, really, really well in her philosophy class that she's taking, and there's this other guy there named Garrett who is not doing so hot, and they end up making a deal with one another that she will tutor him if he will help her try to catch the eye of this guy who she's just in love with, and a relationship from there takes off. And guys, I love this book. It is one of my favorite books that I read this month. It was so phenomenal. It's so much fun. It just made me laugh so much, and you have to read it. Okay, so the next book that I read after that was called Boss Man by Vi Keeland, and that book was also on the vlog, so I'm not going to talk too much about it. I just have to say that it's basically just your typical boss-employee romance that is going on. And guys, I honestly didn't really like this book that much. I didn't think that the relationship here was good at all. I do have to say, though, that there were moments that made me laugh. There were moments that made me crack up so much. So while this book wasn't amazing, it was still decent. But if you compare it to The Deal, which I had read right before I read this book, it just has nothing on The Deal whatsoever. So yeah, that is Boss Man by Vi Keeland. So guys, that is all of the books that I read in the month of November. My voice is freaking threatening to leave me, so I'm gonna try to make my outro really, really quick. Guys, thank you so much for sticking here and for watching this video. I love y'all all so much from the bottom of my heart. If you like this video, please make sure to like, to subscribe, and to comment down below and tell me what you thought about this video. So yes, guys, I hope you have an amazing, wonderful, superb day, and mwah, thank you so much for watching. Bye.